The Internet of Things, or IoT, can be the source of major cybersecurity threats, including data leakage, distributed denial of service attacks, and any attack that can be launched from botnets. Let's take a look at what the Internet of Things is and why it's part of the cybersecurity threat landscape. More and more devices are being connected to the Internet in the name of convenience and control. Key drivers for the growth of IoT devices include the rise of cloud computing as the foundational technology for IoT, plummeting cost of IoT devices, common usage of smartphones and tablets to control IoT devices, and easy access to Wi-Fi. Practically any electronic device can be connected to the Internet and become an IoT device. Common IoT devices include smart home lights, switches, thermostats, home appliances, TVs, security cameras, and even locks. Many health devices are also directly connected to the Internet, such as fitness trackers, connected scales, pedometers, and sleep monitors. Personal assistants that respond to voice commands are also popular. And of course, most modern vehicles are also IoT devices. And the number of IoT devices is projected to grow to more than 50 billion by 2025. The problem is IoT devices are often connected to the Internet without thinking about their security. And IoT devices can be more vulnerable to attacks than servers and network devices connected to the Internet. That's because they usually don't have enough computing power to support basic protections like anti-malware and firewalls. They also often have built-in backdoors for maintenance with default passwords that can easily be found on the Internet. Because these IoT devices are usually directly connected to the Internet, attackers can easily exploit these and other vulnerabilities with automated scripts. Once they have control of an IoT device, it can be added to a botnet or used as a jumping-off point to attack other devices on the same network. According to Symantec's Internet Security Threat Report, routers and connected cameras are the IoT devices most infected by malware and the main sources of IoT attacks, accounting for over 90% of malicious activity. One of the most dramatic examples of the threat of unmanaged IoT devices is the Mirai botnet. The attackers built their botnet army by running a simple script against devices on the Internet that attempted to log in with 61 known IoT default passwords. If they successfully logged in, the IoT device was infected with malware that directed them to follow the instructions of a central command and control system. The attack was very effective. It's estimated that there were nearly 500,000 Mirai-infected IoT devices, mostly composed of closed-circuit TV cameras, DVRs, and routers. They were used to conduct distributed denial of service, or DDoS attacks, against a wide variety of targets. Some good news is governments and regulatory bodies are recognizing the problem of poor or no security standards for devices connecting to the Internet. They're proposing minimum security standards for device manufacturers and labeling to raise the awareness of users about how secure their devices are. These requirements are being enforced as laws, like the IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act, which was signed into U.S. law in 2020. But with next-generation internet capabilities like 5G dramatically increasing data speeds and throughput, we may see IoT devices continue being a key player on the cybersecurity threat landscape well into the future. The number of Internet of Things, or IoT devices, is growing rapidly, and so are the related threats when they're deployed in an unsecure way. The good news is there are some straightforward steps you can take to protect your organization from the threat of unmanaged IoT devices. It's important to understand, though, that some IoT devices are so poorly designed that they may be challenging to secure. For instance, they might not allow you to change default passwords. So we'll start by looking at a few effective security actions you can take at the network level, even if the IoT devices themselves are hard to secure. First, you should conduct an IT asset inventory. Run network scans like Nmap to know which systems and devices are on your network. This will help you identify IoT devices you may not have known about. Investigate any that seem out of the ordinary and remove any unauthorized devices. Second is network segmentation. Now that you have an inventory of your network assets, The next step is to identify which ones are your critical information assets and where they are in your network. Use your routers and switches to segment your network and isolate your critical assets from IoT devices as much as possible. Finally, block ports. Figure out which network ports the IoT devices need and block traffic at the firewall for any other ports. Especially block Telnet, port 23, unless it's absolutely required. Telnet was the protocol that the Mirai attack software used to compromise hundreds of thousands of IoT devices. Some IoT devices, on the other hand, are easier to secure. If that's the case, then at a minimum, implement the following. Change default passwords when possible. This is easily the most important way you can protect your organization and data from attacks against your IoT devices. Attackers know the most common IoT default passwords and will use them to compromise your devices. Changing the default password keeps these attacks from being successful. Next, configure strong security if possible. Practice the least privilege principle, and only give the device and accounts that access it the ability to do what they should be doing and no more. Set restrictive security controls on the device itself if that's an option. And third, install software updates and patches. If the manufacturer is supporting their IoT devices with periodic software updates and patches, make sure you install them in a timely manner. They may include important security fixes that will help protect your IoT devices from attacks. The Open Web Application Security Project, or OWASP, published the IoT Top 10, which is a list of the key vulnerabilities to avoid when building, deploying, or managing IoT systems. If you're responsible for securing IoT devices, I recommend reviewing this list to make sure you've protected against all of these vulnerabilities. By implementing these and the other protections I covered in this video, you'll significantly reduce your exposure to the threat of unmanaged IoT devices.